All right, today we're going to be doing 8-7, which is going to be on factoring and solving trinomials that are in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. And what this means is that now we're going to have a number in front of the x squared. Okay, so that's the only difference from this and the ones that we've done before, the ones that we called x squared plus bx plus c. So our objective today is to factor this form and to also solve these type of equations, which once again, these will be quadratic equations. All right, so let's look at our first example here. So we need to factor 7x squared plus 29x plus 4. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to multiply the a with the c. Remember our form was ax squared plus bx plus c. That was our form. So we're going to take the a number and the c and we're multiplying those together, and that gives us 28. And so just like the other type of factoring we did, we're looking for two numbers that multiply to give you 28 and add to give you 29. So let's go ahead and list the factors of 28. It's going to be 1 and 28, 2 and 14, 3 doesn't go in, it would be 4 and 7, 5 doesn't go in, 6 doesn't go in, and 7 is already there, so we've got them all. Now, because both of our terms, the b term and the c term, are both positive, that means these numbers over here, our factors, are all going to be positive. I'm looking for the 2 that adds up to give me 29. And there it is, 1 and 28. So what we're going to do is we're going to split up this term 29x. And instead of writing 29x, we're going to use our 1 and 28. So I'm going to write 1x and 28x. And then I'm bringing the other stuff down, the plus 4 and the 7x squared. So now I didn't change the value of this. All I did was just change the way it looks. And now we notice that we've got 4 terms. So if you've got 4 terms, you're going to factor by grouping. So I group the first 2, and we see that we've got a GCF of x. So I'm going to pull that out, one set of parentheses, and that gives me 7x plus 1. Group the last 2, and we see that we've got a GCF of a positive 4. So make sure you write plus 4, and that leaves us with 7x plus 1. So now notice these 2 sets of parentheses, they should be the same. If they're not, you've done something wrong or your answer is prime. You write that set of parentheses, you only write it once, 7x plus 1. And then the stuff outside the parentheses, this x and the plus 4, that goes in your other set of parentheses. And that's x plus 4. And there is your final answer. It is now factored. And if you were to FOIL this, you would get your original problem. That's how you would check to make sure you are correct. So let's go ahead and look at example 2. Right here we have 3x squared minus 17x plus 20. So let's go ahead and multiply the a with the c, and that gives us 60. So now let's go ahead and find the factors of 60. It's going to be 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, and 5 and 12, 6 and 10, 7 doesn't go in, 8 does not go in, and neither does 9. So we've got all of our factors because 10 is already there. So now we're looking for these numbers to multiply to give us 60 and add to give us negative 17. So that means both of these need to be negative. And now we look to see which ones add up to give us negative 17. And here they are, negative 5 and negative 12. So now I'm going to break up this middle term, this negative 17x, and instead of writing negative 17x, I'm going to write minus 5x and a minus 12x. So I'm going to write 3x squared And now instead of writing minus 17x, I'm going to write minus 5x, minus 12x, and then plus 20. Now I've got 4 terms, so we're going to do the grouping method. Group the first 2, see what they have in common. All they have in common is an x, so I bring that out, and that gives us 3x minus 5. Group the last 2, see what the GCF is, and we see that that's a 4. But because that first term there is a minus 12x, we need to pull out a negative 4. Whenever we pull out a negative 4, that gives us 3x minus 5. If you only pulled out a positive 4, you would have negative 3x plus 5. And remember, we want those parentheses to be exactly the same. So our parentheses, we write it once, 3x minus 5. And then the stuff outside, we bring down in the other set of parentheses, x minus 4. And then what would we do to check this? We would FOIL, or you can call that distributing, to check. And you would get the same answer. If you got it correct, you would get the same answer as the original problem. All right, let's look at example 3. So let's go ahead here and we're going to multiply the A times C, and that gives us 20. So now we're looking for the terms or the factors of 20. So that's going to be 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 3 doesn't go in, 4 and 5, and there are all the factors of 20. Now because this is a positive 20 and we're looking for a negative 3, well, we know that both numbers need to be negative. Now which one of these adds up to give you negative 3? Well, this is a negative 21. Here's a negative 12. And this one here is a negative 9. So none of them add up to give you negative 3. And then double check your factors. Do we have all the factors? Well, we've got 1, then 2, 3 definitely doesn't go into 20, 4, and after 4 is 5, and we already have 5 up there. So this tells us we've got all the factors. None of them add up to give us negative 3. So this answer here would be prime. Cannot be factored. All right, let's look at example 4. Now this one we are solving. So we're going to have the same steps we had as from our other ones whenever we're solving. First step is to make sure the equation is set equal to 0. Second step is to make sure that the left side is factored. So we see here that this is set equal to 0, but the left side is not factored. So let's go ahead and factor that. So we need to multiply 2 times negative 18. That gives me a negative 36. Now I'm going to list the factors of negative 36. Got 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 5 doesn't go in, and we've got 6 and 6. And because this is a negative 36, and this is a positive 9x, that means our larger number needs to be positive. So I'm going to make the smaller numbers negative. And we're looking for the one that adds up to give us a positive 9. And here it is, negative 3 and a positive 12. So I'm going to rewrite this, 2x squared. And instead of writing 9x, I'm going to write minus 3x plus 12x. And then the minus 18 equals 0. Group the first 2. That gives you x. And that's our GCF, so that leaves us with 2x minus 3. Group the last 2. And 12x minus 18, our GCF there, is a positive 6. So that leaves us with 2x minus 3 equals 0. So now let's go ahead and write down that set of parentheses once, 2x minus 3. In one set of parentheses, the x plus 6. and the other set of parentheses equals 0. And then our third step, set each factor equal to 0. So I've got 2x minus 3 equals 0 and x plus 6 equals 0. And then our fourth step is to solve. So right here I'm going to add 3 to both sides, and that gives you 2x equals 3. Divide by 2, and that gives us x equals 3 over 2. Right here I'm going to subtract 6 on both sides, and I get x equals negative 6. So our two answers here are 3 over 2 and negative 6. And there's your answer. To double check this, to make sure you are correct, you can take both of those answers and plug them into the x. So you would do 3 over 2 squared, multiply it by 2, and then add that to your 9 times 3 over 2, and then subtract 18, and you should get 0. If you didn't, either you've got the wrong answers or you've done something wrong when plugging it in. But that's how you would check to make sure your answer is correct. And that is it for 8-7 notes. If you've got any questions, please let me know.